Hello and welcome back to Let's All Laugh At, the football podcast that thrives at someone else's expense. I'm George, and this week I'm joined by Johnny and Andrew. How are you guys?
Yeah, not bad, mate, not bad.
You're just glad international break's over.
I was about to say, yeah, we have just had an international break that just finished. England had their last game yesterday against Iceland. Good win, to be fair, but we're not going to talk about any of them because I am absolutely sick to death of the international break. I used to really enjoy them a couple of years ago. Like after the World Cup, we were playing some good stuff, and we were doing well, and it looked like there was actually a bit of energy in the team. But all that has drained away very, very quickly, and I'm not bothered anymore. What about you guys?
Yeah, fed up with it. No more till March. Good.
Yeah.
I just think it breaks the season up so much.
Yeah.
I mean, we just want to get on with the Premier League if you have a good team.
Yeah, especially in terms of injuries, as we'll be getting to, because there's a lot to talk about in terms of comments about injuries. But you will start with the Premier League because, like you said, first one back in a couple of weeks, and we're all in action this weekend at various points. And first up, it's you guys, Andrew, Newcastle v Chelsea. So how do you see this one going?
I remember the game last year where we basically scored. We were absolutely dreadful, literally had 0 shots, did absolutely nothing. And then we scored from a set piece in the last minute. Kepa, obviously, Sabutio goalkeeping there with his abilities. And, we managed to get the win. But I think Chelsea are better this year. I can see them walking all over us, to be honest, with Ziyech is on fire at the moment, and Frank seems to have managed to get that defensive balance that was missing by bringing in Mendy and Thiago Silva. So I can see us, maybe 2-3-0. But to be honest, we have a very good record against Chelsea.
I was going to say, yeah, you've got some really good results of them over the years. The 3-0 on the final day a couple of years ago, I remember. And then when Jose Mourinho's managed as well. Am I correct in saying Mourinho has never won a match at St James's Park after managing the Premier League for like 10 years?
I think that stat is not. I can't remember if we beat them at home last year. I don't think we did. But I think he hasn't won at St James's Park. It's a crazy start, but he's won a lot of other things. So.
Yeah, not the St James's Park trophy though. But speaking of Newcastle, your favourite subject to talk about, so we'll bring it up. The news coming today that apparently the Premier League has leaked certain calls or certain emails, confidential emails, and that's basically pressured Newcastle and Mike Ashley to take them to court over it. And they've announced formally they're going to do that. Basically, well, they've announced it today, but they're going to be doing it in the coming days, coming weeks. So, I mean, do you think there's still a chance that they could win and they could force a takeover through?
No, the consortium is going to buy Derby County. That's pretty much looks like.
But it was reported though that I thought I saw reports that they were still keen to get the takeover done though, or was that a different one?
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think Ashley still obviously is keen to, get some compensation because it's not fair. Why are Derby County allowed to be bought yet Newcastle aren't? And I've said this before, like so many clubs with dodgy owners have been bought over the years. Why were we not allowed? I don't agree with all their practices, but it just doesn't make sense. Fair enough, then Sheikh Mansour shouldn't have been allowed to buy Man City. Roman Abramovich shouldn't have been allowed to buy Chelsea. Like, you can't have one rule for someone and one rule for the other. I mean, it's also been linked that if Derby do get bought, they're going to get Rafa in as their manager. So it'll be a double trade for me.
Just insult to injury there.
Yeah, like Steve Bruce has just nothing on Rafa.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, as far as that's concerned, I mean, it's just there's not much left to say about Newcastle or their situation. I mean, but it's sort of a bit depressing to watch from the outside, so God knows what it must be like for a Newcastle fan, I suppose.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel sorry for Newcastle fans, you know what I mean? Because they're a passionate bunch and they deserve to have a decent owner and deserve to be, they're, as I say, they every week or every other week they get, 50, 60,000 fans at St James's Park. And, I do like Newcastle a lot. They're a decent side, and I think with decent money spent, I know they spent a lot of money on Joe Linton and players like that, but I mean proper money and building a squad. They could be up there, and I do feel for them because they deserve better. And it's frustrating as a non-fan. I can't imagine what it's like as a Newcastle fan.
The thing as well, I think, important to note that Mike Ashley would never want to go near a courtroom. So the fact that he's taking the Premier League to court, he kind of knows he's going to win.
Yeah, he must have something on them, yeah.
he would not want his business affairs to be so open unless he knew he was going to win. So I think he's definitely got information and that he will get compensation for this. And the Premier League, it wasn't only that they were blocking it, they were slow. They kept delaying everything, weeks and weeks, and it was in COVID as well, so they've got nothing else to do. So yeah, it was like the country was on lockdown and everything. So I just think it's so frustrating and it's unfair. I mean, it does leave a bit of, because you just think that if they go and buy Derby County get promoted, they're not going to say, oh, you can't come into the Premier League because of your owner. It's just crazy.
And the thing is, I mean, if they buy Derby, I mean, I don't mean this in any disrespect to Derby, but if it's all about if buts and maybes getting promoted. I mean, there's no guarantee they get promoted. I mean, there's been owners that have bought littler clubs in the League One, League Two, and it hasn't worked out. And just if Newcastle could just get a decent owner and are allowed to spend their own money, because Mark Ashley is, I mean, there aren't many nice words to say about that man. I won't say any on the podcast, but. There's no winners. If he goes to court, there's no winners. The Newcastle fans ain't going to win out of this, because if he gets any compensation, he's not gonna spend the money in the club. He's going to just take money himself. It's just a massive shame, isn't it?
I do feel like he wanted to sell. Like I can criticize him for lots of things if he was blocking the move, but he didn't want that. He wants rid of us. Like
yeah, it must be weird to be on the same side as Mike Ashley for the first time in like his whole reign. Like you both want the exact same thing for once in your lives.
He wants rid, and like they're not letting him get rid. And fit and proper test. He shouldn't pass the fit and proper test in the first place with some of his with Sports Direct and everything. So I just find, I always say this, if you're going to have a system, it has to be for everyone. There's no point having it for some people and not having it for other people. It's just crazy. It's just, and like I said, Derby will get bought now, and I'm sure, these are the rich, they have more money than Man City. So they're obviously gonna be, flying high and so forth. So it's just going to be so frustrating to see.
Yeah, well, I mean, it says a lot about the state of football nowadays, which, believe me, we'll get into a bit later. But yeah, well, we'll move on to you, Johnny, and Arsenal, because you're playing Leeds the very next day away from home, and honestly, I mean, to be honest, Leeds have dropped off a little bit because 4-1 against Leicester and Palace. We're not really known for our attacking flair as well, so never a good result. But again, your result against Villa the week before last is not encouraging either. So how do you see this one going?
It's going to be a difficult one. I see lots of goals, to be honest. Cause,
yeah, me too.
yeah, I see a lot of goals. Leeds are a good side, and it's just a massive shame that Leeds, their fans won't be there, because it's going to be a cracking game. I think it's a hard one to call, to be honest. I mean, before the Villa game, when we got absolutely spanked by Villa, I'd have said it'd probably be a comfortable win for the Arsenal, but it's not going to be easy. I mean, even against Palace, Leeds, I mean, they were dreadfully unlucky with a couple of decisions. So I mean, so it's going to be a difficult one. As I say, Bamford's on absolute fire. As much as you love him, Joel, he's scoring goals, and you wouldn't back against him scoring again at the weekend. I'm hoping Arteta has gave a rocket up the arse of some of the players, and it's going to be interesting. I think he might have to play some players, like he might have to start Eddie Nketiah, because again he scored again yet last night for England, the under 21s. So I think he's got to be starting Nketiah, because he's scoring goals for fun for England. So, and Saka again was fantastic for England last night. So I think he might have to drop players like Lacazette and put players like Nketiah in, I think.
I mean, William starting. I find it great. William was brilliant against Fulham on the opening day, but he's been very poor.
Yeah, no, he hasn't been great. I don't know. I said a while ago he'd be his fan of the summer. Well, neither do I feel. But no, he's still a quality player, William. I'm not sure what's going on, but how he's starting every game, and a player like Nicolas Pepe, who's when he comes on the pitch, he seems to be doing the business. So hopefully this weekend Pepe will get a run out, because
there's got to be some sort of attitude thing with Pepe, because since he signed, like, I just think like he clearly should be starting. He must be like either terrible in training or something because it just makes no sense why he's like even when he comes on scores a goal, he's not in the team the next week. It's just
Yeah.
I just find there must be something behind the scenes where he's not applying himself in the right way because it was the same with Emery as well.
Mm.
You know, and you spent 70 odd million on him as well. Like it's not, not a cheap signing. Did you see the story about Caballos and David Luiz? Are you worried about that at all?
I haven't seen that actually. What's that? What's he done now,
I
David?
suppose they got sent home from training for fighting.
Do you know? And no,
Ceballos has come out as well on Twitter and denied the whole thing. It was Ornstein that broke it apparently. So a usually reliable source potentially getting something very wrong there. So
I mean, players fight all the time. Let's be honest. I mean, Arsenal Fulham first game of the season. I think it was Ceballos and I can't remember who it was. It happens all the time. You know, it's just for me. I didn't hear that story, but it's a story out of nothing. Players fight all the time. Even before social media, it was worse than it is now. Players fight. It happens. I'm sure. Well, hopefully. To be fair, if David Luiz tried to throw a punch, he'd probably miss anyway. To be honest, so it doesn't really matter.
The Bios is a strange one, isn't he? Because first half of last year he was poor, then he played really well, and this year he's not really played that much.
I know it's a very strange one. I'm a big fan of Danny Ceballos. I really like him. He seems like, as you said, at the start of last season he was very slow, and a lot of Arsenal fans got on his back. Funnily enough, that's what Arsenal fans do if they don't play very well. They get on their back. I think he's quality. I think he wants to be creative, but I don't think he's so much of a creative midfielder. He's a brilliant passer of the ball. If only we had a creative midfielder who can slot in there. I can't think of anyone. Can you? A midfielder? But never mind. It's going to be a different game on Sunday. I'm going to go for an Arsenal win, but it's going to be. Leeds will score. Don't worry about that. Leeds will score. Bamford will score 3 at least.
yeah, I mean, I think Leeds are going to win that one personally. I think just with the form, because I think Leeds are like to call a bit of an ideological team. Like they do one thing and they do it very well. Not necessarily because they're not capable of playing a different way. They have good players, but their manager is he's very set in his ways and he likes playing that style, and that is his style, and he doesn't budge from it. He's a bit like Roy Hodgson in that sense, only much more attractive. But yeah, I think Leeds sort of either works or it doesn't. But I think against a team like Arsenal that are more frail defensively, I think they've got a much better, ironically, have a better chance of happening against Palace, which is weird to say, but there you go. And in terms of Pepe, all I'll say is I know which Ivorian Premier League winger I would prefer to have at my club. But moving on to Palace, we've got our game against Burnley on Monday night, which I might point out, right, it was rescheduled for TV. We've then got the Newcastle game on the following Friday night. So it's essentially as if we're playing a midweek game because we get about 4 days of rest. So I think it's mental. Like it's such a ridiculous decision. Like there's so many games you could put on Friday night. And Palace Newcastle, I know fans aren't travelling to games, so it's not as big of a thing as it could have been. But for the players, like why not just put it on a Saturday or a Sunday? I don't understand. But anyways, Burnley away. I know they haven't started the season very well, Burnley, but I think it's still going to be a tough game because not only they are a very difficult side to play, especially at home, but they always manage to seem to dig out a result when they need to. Like they'll start a season poorly, and then they went on like a 5-game winning streak or something like that at the midway through the season, and then that basically just carried them on. They just kept getting wins, and they were able to sneak into the top half, which was nuts. So there is certainly the possibility they could turn up again, but I think we're in a good position because the pressure is all on them. What worries me is the only pressure should be on them, and the only pressure that will come from us will be from our fans who are demanding that we win this game, because there's a lot of fans who are going to see Burnley as bottom of the league or second bottom of the league or wherever they are and think that we should be winning this game. And on paper, yes, you can understand. I think I would like us to see us win that game for sure, but at the same time, like, there's no point putting all that pressure on us. Like, a draw isn't a bad result either, especially with a clean sheet. Again, it depends on the performance. If we play well and we get a point out of it, then that's fine by me. But I don't think we should get cocky as well, because Burnley are a decent team when they want to be.
They are, but I think this season, we have to touch with, but Burnley, I can't see anything other than the Palace win, George. I really can't. Burnley, injuries, they just haven't. I feel so sorry for Sean Dyche. He hasn't been backed. He was screaming out in the summer, I need to be backed. I need to buy some players. I've got no players. They were all injured, and they didn't back him. And they've got a decent squad. Don't get me wrong. There are some decent players in there, but they're just for some reason this season it's not working. And last season, as you say, they go on a 3, 4, 5 winning, without losing. But this season they're not scoring enough goals, and defensively they look quite poor as well. And with Palace with Zaha and Eze and Ayew and players like that who can.
Eze might not be fit though. He was withdrawn from the England under-21s, supposedly as a precaution, but the club said they're going to test his fitness on Monday. So hopefully he's fit, because I don't want him. I want him getting a run of games now that he's done so well against Leeds. I don't want to give Roy any excuse to drop him. But
yeah. I can't see anything other than a Palace win. Is it at Selhurst Park or?
No, it's at Turf Moor, which actually is better because we tend to do better away from home anyway. So I'm more confident going there than I would if they came to us. But still, we just have a tendency to mess up when we should be winning, and it pisses our fans off. That's the only thing I'd say. I think on paper, yeah, we probably are favourites, but you can never be sure with us.
No, definitely not. And yeah, no, definitely. I just the way Palace are playing at the moment, the kind of that winning mentality where they were superb against Leeds, and I think Roy Hodgson, and I think a lot of the players will want to keep up that winning mentality, and I think Burnley might be the perfect opposition to carry on that, because I just think Burnley don't score enough goals and they can't defend either.
I think with Burnley, they're having a bit similar to Bournemouth, where they've played in the Prem really well, but then this might be one season too far, in my opinion, and I think Sean Dyche might regret not leaving in the summer, because obviously they let Jeff Hendrick go. He's not that good. I wish they kept him, to be honest. Like, I read that James Tarkowski said that the contract offer he got was a bit of a joke.
Yeah, I saw that too.
He's clearly like players don't feel valued and so forth. So it might be one season too much for Burnley. And I think both Burnley and Sheffield United in particular are definitely missing the home fans being there and an atmosphere at their home stadiums. I think Sheffield United are really struggling because of that. So, I think this might be one season too far. But I wish they'd kept Jeff Hendrick, though. I think that's the moral.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're wishing that too. Yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned this on your podcast, Johnny, a week or so ago. But I think Burnley, a bit like Newcastle, are very much relying on this takeover to go through, this American takeover. I think that's looking a lot more likely because the Premier League don't seem to be interfering as much. But I don't know. I haven't been following it too closely. Don't know how close it is and the pipe works. But if they can get that in, and they can get, there's always a danger with American owners though, as a thing, because you've got our owners who've basically done bugger all since they got here, and you've got Swansea as well, taking them down to the Championship and sort of
Arsenal's owners as well.
Arsenal's owners, yeah. I mean, it's that sort of American corporate conservatism, isn't it? That doesn't really fit football that well. I mean, I don't want to be potentially racist, like, and say that it's all Americans. But that tends to be, particularly amongst like American businessmen as well, and like
Randy Lerner at Villa was terrible.
Randy Lerner as well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's hard not to make that connection. So I think Burnley fans, a lot of them want Mike Garlick out because of how little in the backing he's got. But to be fair to him, I think he's probably doing as much as he can because he's not the wealthiest owner. I know they've put a lot of money into their academy, so he's clearly planning for the future. He's not investing in them, period. It's just he hasn't got that much to invest in the playing squad. So I can understand wanting them to move on because they can't keep treading water like this forever because it is going to catch up with them sooner or later.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And I say with relegation, you can only float relegation for so long, can't you? The teams in the past, over the past 5, 6, 7 years, the teams like your Villas who went down, come back up again, Sunderland, Wigan, and teams like that. You can't keep floating relegation. Eventually, you're going to get in the trap. Like Bournemouth as well. They past 2-3 seasons they were flirting relegation, and eventually they got sucked in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Bournemouth, it's not really a similar approach because they were spending money on players. They were just spending it really badly. Like, I don't think I need to bring up Jordan Ibe and Dominic Solanke for the 7th time. But with Burnley, they're doing the total opposite and just not strengthening their squad at all. So, but you're right. It is that sort of, small stadium, seen as a small club, relegation favourites, and they always seem to avoid it and then potentially get sucked into it. So, yeah, there's definitely that possibility. But yeah, well, we'll move on, and we'll move on to staying in the EFL, or the Championship at least. There's news that came through this week that the EFL is officially pushing through the 5 subs rule. So the same rule we saw at the end of last season, with the where you've got 3 sub breaks, but you're allowed to bring in 5 subs in that period. But if you use all 3, then that's it. Then you haven't used all 5 subs, then you're not allowed anymore.
Can I say one thing about this rule? That like Pep and Klopp are saying, "Oh, we need 5 subs. We need 5 subs." In the last game, yeah. Pep, I think, made 2 subs and Klopp made 1 sub.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I mean,
so I would understand if they were using 3 subs every game. and so forth. But I just find it crazy.
Well, I think it's a matter of time before the Premier League it changes its rule now the EFL's done it. I mean, it's simply a case of you've had Gareth Southgate, you've had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you've had Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, you've had them pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and they are not going to stop until they get their way. And they're going to get their way because that's how football works nowadays. So it annoys me. I understand that Dan makes a good case for it every time he's on here. I'm not saying it's totally one-sided, but it does make you feel like it is being done for the benefit of the big clubs, and it certainly benefits the big clubs more, in my opinion. What do you think, Johnny?
It does, yeah. I mean, with the 5 substitutes, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of it, especially because for me, more pointedly down to the fact that it just interrupts the game. Do you know what I mean? 5 subs and you've got 3 in a row. It completely interrupts the flow. If a team's winning 2-0 or 2-1, they bring off 5 people, whatever it is. It just really interrupts it and the game slows down. I'm not a massive fan of it. It's a difficult one. Because especially after the Aston Villa game, I was going to do 11 subs, to be honest. But it's difficult. I'm not a massive fan of it. But as you say, if the big boys want to do it, they'll get their way. And it's a difficult one, really.
Yeah, I've said I don't think I need to say more than that. What annoys me is that they had the vote and they said no. I wish they would just let it settle for at least a season. Like just suck it up and try and go on with it. I understand in Liverpool particularly have a very bad injury list, but how many clubs, like last season, we didn't have we had a terrible injury list last season. We had most of the injury 11 that we could field was better than the 11 we had on the pitch. And a couple of seasons ago in Roy Hodgson's first season, we had literally no fit striker for half the season. We had to play Bakary Sakho up front for most of it. He did okay, to be fair, but we coped with it. We didn't get any extra help. There's even talks of Liverpool being able to make emergency transfers outside the January transfer window. It's so obvious that you're just bending the rules for the bigger clubs because they've got all the power.
Liverpool should not be allowed to do that. They could have bought 7-8 centre backs in the summer if they were so worried. I just disagree.
Or just use their academies because they've got so much better academies than most of the Premier League. How about actually giving them a go?
Yeah, I think Barcelona last year, Suarez got injured, so they just went and just plucked a striker in February. No other club were allowed. It's just unfair ruling.
I remember that.
Was it Martin Braithwaite? Was it him?
Martin Braithwaite, yeah, middle of the flop Barcelona star.
Yeah.
Oh, mate,
he didn't even play in the Premier League. It was the Championship he was up.
Oh, what a great agent. Sorry, Martin. Guess what? Barcelona want you. No, really, they do. No, you go to Barcelona. Unbelievable.
It reminds me a bit of when Rob Green went to Chelsea. It's that just totally came out of nowhere. And I don't even know if they ever used him for a game. But just imagine that. You're struggling in the Championship at QPR. Then, I don't imagine QPR fans too happily as well because they don't like them at all. And then all of a sudden you're playing at Chelsea earning however much a week just to sit on the bench. It's mental. Yep, all right then. Well, we'll move on because there's an equally controversial topic been coming up in the last few weeks, actually, and that's mostly centering around Marcus Rashford. Obviously the main thing that's been in the headlines, the reason he's been in the headlines the past few weeks is his school meal scheme. He was obviously the government a few weeks ago basically voting to cut free school meals for kids. Marcus Rashford stepped in and said, he was trying to basically find a solution where they could actually be fed. And loads of businesses and organisations even stepped up and offered school meals, based on the campaign that he'd been leading. So that's mainly why he's been in the news, and it's just led to them. And that's one part of that's one reason. There's a lot of undertones that we'll get to as part of it. But the most recent article that the media's written is how he suddenly owns multiple houses all across the country, and it's I just don't understand. How many houses do the people who writing the papers actually own? Is the point that he's a hypocrite because he's a lefty or something like that? I really don't understand it, Johnny. I know you're not a fan of it either.
No, I'm not. And Marcus Rashford has done an amazing thing. As a young lad as well. Yeah, he does earn a lot of money, but what he's done this year is been unbelievable. And if he doesn't win Sports Personality of the Year, then something's wrong. He's a young lad. He's bought houses worth 2 million or whatever it is. I don't care. Do you know what? He's looking after his future and his family. And
he even said about the houses that number one, because he'd come from such a hard upbringing where it was difficult for him to. I don't know if he said he lived. Was it in council housing he lived in, or he had to keep moving houses or something like that. But essentially saying, number one, he wanted to make sure his family had places to stay if they needed it, and two, like you said, if something happened to his other house, one of his other houses, then he's got insurance, so to speak. So I understand how that might look like if you're a poor person yourself, you know, you can look at that and be a bit jealous. I get that, but for like the media to be slating him, who again I'm sure have just as many houses, a lot of them, if not more, like it's ridiculous.
Oh, it is, and I said in our group chat, a few years ago when Robbie Fowler was typing football, he got into property, and he bought a whole street in Liverpool, and his online things he does, he's like his property, whatever they're called, he can charge up to £1,000 just to give advice, that's the same as Stephen Manaman, same as Michael Owen, and do they get any bad reputation for it? No, they don't. And Marcus Rashford looking after himself, and there is I hate bringing race into it, but there is a sense of racism in the media. It happened to Mason Greenwood as well. They're starting rumours about him because of the colour of his skin, and it makes me so angry. The media, not just football, people like Lewis Hamilton as well. Seven titles in a row, and all of a sudden, he gets slated off. I'm so sick and tired of the little racial things the media say and put a little spin on it. And Marcus Rashford has done superbly, and fair play to him. And I don't care what he spends his money on, because he spends his money on what he wants to, because and we should celebrate. We should celebrate him doing what he wants to do. We're so easy, the media, to bring. We'll bring them up and go, they did a great job. And as soon as they do something decent, we'll try and bring them down again. I think it's disgraceful. They went to Wayne Rooney years ago. Just kept bringing him down all the time.
Raheem Sterling as well, massive. I mean, they absolutely hated him. I mean, God, the smear campaign I saw against him was some of the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's awful, George. It's awful. And, and if Marcus Rashford was white, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And it's simple as that. And same as Raheem Sterling standing up for Black Lives Matter, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because there is a systematic racism in the media, and people can deny it all they want. It happens. And I'm personally sick and tired of it. I think it's disgraceful. And Marcus Rashford, people say he should be knighted. It's far too soon for that. Same as Lewis Hamilton, too soon. But they've done brilliantly.
Lewis Hamilton, too soon. He's won 7 world titles.
Yeah, 7 world titles. And rather than celebrate him and go, he's the greatest Formula 1 driver in history, which, him and Michael Schumacher, it's a very tight one. But we should be celebrating that as Brits. We go, Joe, we've got one of the greatest drivers ever to grace the earth. And rather than celebrating, because he's a little bit outspoken, he's a little bit this. No, he's said what he believes in, and actually celebrated, not criticised every single day. And I feel so strongly about it, because it annoys me that people can just still hate someone just because of the colour of their skin, and I still don't understand it.
Well, it's all to do with its heritage and purity as well, isn't it? People like to make themselves feel important by being more British than someone else. We see that in the media especially. I mean, they just don't like the fact that young black kids whose parents have probably come from elsewhere have grown up born and raised in tough conditions, and have grown up in Britain and have embraced this country and be someone we can all be proud of. And a lot of them, and not all of them, I don't want to slate the media as this monolithic entity, because there's a lot of journalists that do appreciate what they do, for sure. But there are, I'm sure people can figure out who we're talking about, but the specific groups that they see it as a big club, and they just don't want people that they don't like in it. I mean, they don't even. I'm sure, like, football has been looked down by types like that for ages. I mean, you see the new government bill giving like 350 million to rugby or something like that, and like 80 million compared to football, when football is obviously the biggest sport in the country. Like, it's pretty obvious why they're doing it. They've been trying to make football more middle class and less working class for as long time as they can, and it's worked in a lot of areas, but not enough for them apparently. I know we said we wouldn't get political on here, and I understand we're doing it a bit much, but it's hard to keep my mouth shut on a lot of this.
Absolutely. And as podcasters, we do have a platform, and because there are many other people out there that don't speak about it. And as far as I'm concerned, if you can't stay silent forever, because if you've got an opinion on something, because I've found, especially this year, George, with everything that's going on in the world, people that are nasty people, and there are a lot of nasty people out there, they can kind of say their horrible, nasty views, and that's okay. But if you stand up against them, you get slated for standing up against them. And it's a weird world we live in. Maybe it's just 2020, but it's a horrible world, and I think we've got to stand up and just be kind. It ain't hard. Just because of the colour of someone's skin, it don't make any difference to me.
Yeah, talk about platforms. Andrew, do you want to use yours to add to any of that?
I mean, I agree. I think one of the stories that really irritated me yesterday was they wrote like Man U sources think Mason Greenwood is going to turn into Ravel Morrison. Ravel Morrison, I don't think he ever played for Man United, or he played probably like a League Cup game. Mason Greenwood has scored loads of goals.
Yeah.
I think he's just had the passing of one of his close friends as well. They
Mhm.
really need to leave the kid alone. He's like 18, 19 years old. Yeah, he made a mistake when he went on England duty and so forth, but he's a kid. People make mistakes. And I do just think that they're already trying this natural finisher, one of the most natural finishers we've had for ages. They're just trying to bring him down as well. And it is frustrating, and it does beg a question whether you think it's to do with race and so forth. And like, would Harry Kane get this you know, sort of treatment? The Lewis Hamilton, just to talk, is just. I do like people say, oh, he shouldn't be a sir as well because he lives abroad. Yeah, someone like Sean Connery's lived abroad all his life, yet he got sir.
Richard
It
Branson,
just
he does so much, doesn't he?
Oh God, don't get me started on him. If I could take his title and give it to Lewis Hamilton, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it is a bit strange. And with Hamilton being a sir, I think when he retires, they'll naturally give him sir, and because he deserves it. Because I think when you're a sir and you're still playing, kind of like Sir Andy Murray when he got a sir for winning one Wimbledon, which is very,
I mean, Andy Murray is a classic example. He's done fantastic to win 3 Grand Slams. I know it's turning into a sports podcast, not. He's won 3 Grand Slams in a very difficult era. Won Wimbledon twice and everything. Obviously Djokovic, Federer, Nadal. It's such a difficult era. But Hamilton has won 7. He's been the best 7 times. I know obviously the car plays a part, but still, he deserves credence and some praise, and he deserves like a knighthood for that.
yeah,
You
no,
know,
yeah. And I hate that argument about he's got the best car. With it, the car, of course, the car does play a little bit of effect, but then why isn't Bottas winning titles? And Frankie
Well,
Dettori.
it's like saying you win. It's like saying Man City or Liverpool win the title because they've got the best team. Yeah, well done. There you go. That's kind of how it works.
And I've done, I know this is a football podcast, but it's only to jockeys as well. Like Frankie Dettori. Yeah, he's a great jockey, and he gets the best horses, but he's still got to ride them. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't win races just because you're Frankie Dettori. You still got to ride the bloody thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just we just don't seem to celebrate our winners. We'd rather make a film about Eddie the Eagle who come last in the Winter Olympics, which is bizarre. I mean,
Yeah, you mentioned the Mason Greenwood story as well. How they said Man United sources. Gary Neville even called them out on Twitter. I think it was Gary Neville. Said, can you name the Manchester United source, please? Because basically just calling them out because he knew it was bullshit. Like we need to see more of that. We need to see. I mean, Steve Parish did it all the time. I mean, this is more of a transfer issue than a race issue. But with Sky talking about our bid for Ryan Brewster, didn't even go to us in the end. And he spoke about it twice and said, like, actually quote your sources this time, or like, stop making stuff.
he
Yeah.
started at Sheffield United, you're probably happy he hasn't.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Well, we dodged the bullet as far as that's concerned, especially the clauses that Liverpool put in. I've been ripped off by Liverpool enough times to want any to happen again. But yeah, I don't want to say it's. I mean, I don't want to point out it's entirely based on race because you said players like Paul, like Wayne Rooney, and it's all about getting headlines and getting clicks, and they know they're going to pick anyone who thinks it's going to be an easy target. And unfortunately, I guess they see young black players as more of an easy target than someone like Harry Kane. I mean, look at Phil Foden. He got some criticism to sure, but to the same level as Greenwood, like no chance. It's obvious it's clear who they focused on more, and it's hard to see why else they would do it. But yeah, I mean, I really don't want to be talking about this again, but I'm sure it'll come up again. And it's not because the media's been doing it for years. But yeah, so before we move on to the Let's All Laugh At, I thought we'd introduce a little new segment to this podcast now that we've got Andrew and Johnny here. I'm going to call it Ozil Watch. So, Johnny, where is Ozil right now?
I saw him at Tesco's earlier. He was buying some sausage rolls. So Christmas, yeah, he's buying some of that. Yeah, he's all right. He seems to be all right. He's he bought some cheap sausage rolls because he's a bit skint, bless him. Yeah, he's living off Poundland at the moment, bless him. But yeah, he's all right. He's all right.
I love how we just assumed that he's suddenly living in your flat. That's an AU I could get behind. This is just basically my excuse to just let you two go back and forth about Mesut Ozil. So go on, Andrew.
I just would have loved Mesut Ozil to have just said this summer he's not registered and just said, right, fine, I'm going to go somewhere else and just show how great I am. You know, taken a wage cut and done that. But I mean, I told you, like, I don't think he's been a good player for the last 2, 3 years. He's not the same player. At 2010 to 2012, he was one of the best players in the world. You know, he tore teams to pieces. You know, Cristiano Ronaldo loved playing with him, said he was the best technical player he's ever played with or something like that. I just think his lack of ambition to sit and watch, he doesn't even play, watch Arsenal under 23s is, he has so much money. I think he'll regret it soon. They all regret it at the end of their careers because their careers peter out so early. It's a shame. He's still young. He's 32. He's not 35, 36.
I find it really strange though, because Arsenal, they put a thing out on Facebook, or probably on Twitter as well, that all the players lining up together, like socially distanced and as a team photo. But Mesut Ozil was there. I find that really strange because I thought if he's not registered, why would you? I just find it very strange. But it's a very difficult one with Mesut Ozil. I mean, I still love him, but it's if he wasn't on 350 grand a week, I think he wouldn't be at the club anymore. But he's trying to find a club they're gonna pay his wages. That's the problem.
I think with his Arsenal career, he obviously was really great for the first few years as well. He's probably a bit unlucky that it was Giroud who was up front, because you imagine if he'd had a peak like Suarez or Torres or someone like Aubameyang at his peak, then he would have been even better because he would have been making more goals to a more mobile. Like Giroud obviously is a great, I think he broke Thierry Henry's France record yesterday, or he's close to breaking Thierry Henry's France record. But still, like if Ozil had maybe had a more mobile striker, he would have had many more assists and so forth when he was at his peak.
Yep, all right then. Yeah, I don't have much left to say about Ozil. If he's not playing, then I mean, I guess he's just going to have to run his contract down at Arsenal and probably lost the best years of his career, unfortunately. But we'll have to see how that goes on. So we'll move on to the Let's All Laugh At, and we'll start with you, Johnny. What have you gone for?
It was during the international break, unfortunately, but I can't. It was a goal from the halfway line. I can't remember what team it was or country it was, but I think it was. Was it Macedonia or something like that? They just scored, and the keeper he's out his 18-yard box, and straight from the kickoff, he's launched it, and the keeper's in the middle of absolutely nowhere. You got to see it on YouTube.
It was Kazakhstan against Albania. They scored from the kickoff. Yeah.
I knew it was a big giant of a country. I knew it was superstars. I knew it was someone like that. But it was it made me. It just, if I was the manager or the defence, I would be screaming at the keeper because they just scored, haven't they? And he's what he's doing outside of his goal, I don't know. It's awful. But yeah, that's mine. I do love seeing a goal from the halfway line, especially when the keeper's trying to get back and misses the ball. Made me laugh.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of when it was a very different goal. They ran from the lines there. But it reminds me when Benteke set the record for the fastest goal in World Cup qualifying history. It was against like San Marino or someone for Belgium, and literally just ran straight from the kickoff, no resistance whatsoever from the defence, and just slotted it in. Like, I mean, Benteke of all players is the one to have that goal. I wish he could score. I wish he can't even score in 70 minutes for us, but.
700 minutes more like.
Yeah, exactly. 700 minutes. Yeah, I mean, that is the one thing I do like about international breaks, is you get silly moments like that, and from the smaller teams as well. Like, I think Kazakhstan finished top of their group as well, so they're going to be promoted to the I think it's the C tier, I think it is. So that's good for them.
Yeah. I don't know, promotions, relegations, I don't know. There's too many international games. You've got friendlies, it's too much.
Yeah. So we'll move on to you, Andrew. What have you gone for?
Germany losing 6-0 to Spain.
God,
yeah. Nothing embarrassing. I think Joachim Löw has been the manager for 14 years, and I think obviously he's won a World Cup, done incredible things for them. But it might be time to go. To lose 6-0 and the way they exited the World Cup in 2018. But I think they're going to keep him till the Euros. One thing that's really annoying me is they keep calling it Euro 2020, and it's like it's not in 2020, it's in 2021. I still don't
Yeah.
get it. It's just the other thing I was going to go for was Sunderland. I don't know if you saw Cameron
Of course.
Cameron Jerome had an outburst. Like Cameron Jerome of all players, I think he's playing for Milton Keynes now, saying, "Oh, Sunderland's such a rubbish club now, mid-table League One." I just found it quite funny. Like it's like Cameron Jerome, who's it's like, how far have you fallen? That Cameron Jerome is the one insulting you.
Players. If it was Neymar or someone like that, you go, you know what, fair enough, yeah, fine. But when it's on Cameron Rome, oh dear. Yeah, but
another Palace star striker of old scored about 2 goals and about 30 starts for us or something like that.
I tell you what, I watched a German game the other night, and I tell you what, and the Spanish lineup wasn't a great lineup from Spain. Do you know what I mean? If you look at the two lineups, you probably go Germany are probably going to win this game because no disrespect to the Spanish lineup, but it wasn't a team full of stars, and they were superb. Spain. That Ferran Torres, tell you what, he's a baller. I like him a lot. I think he could. He definitely could fill the boots of Aguero for City.
I think with Spain and they are an incredible team, but they're just that team that they had where it was Xavi, Iniesta, the Fabregas, Xabi Alonso team is just a crazy team, and it's always going to be hard to follow that sort of team. I think that's the thing Spain have struggled with since those players kind of left. Because for me, that Pep's team of Barcelona and that Spain team are the best teams I've seen. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, I mean you're right about Germany that they're sort of coming to the end of that era, aren't they? I mean they probably should have moved on after the World Cup, but I can understand not wanting to get rid of him straight away after one bad tournament. But yeah, with results like that, it doesn't build confidence going into the Euros. And as for Spain, I mean they're going to have all the confidence in the world, given that Netherlands have an absolute twerp of a manager in charge, and the Belgium for me are just too inconsistent to really say as firm favourites, and I don't rate Martinez that highly as a manager. I think Spain for me are probably the favourites for the Euros based on that performance alone. I mean, like you said,
keep getting jobs. I think his agent is incredible.
I think his Barca camps are getting him the jobs more than anything else really, and his Ajax spell. People still think it's 2014 or whatever, but he's failed at literally every other job from Inter to Palace to Atlanta, and he somehow ends up at the Netherlands job. Like, I don't get it.
I tell you what, George, I've not heard the word twerk for a while.
I was thinking I wanted to say the other one beginning with TW, but I thought not. And it was the first one that popped into my head. I don't know.
Like it a lot. That is that. Twerk. Let's all laugh at twerk. Love that. I love that.
We're partying like it's 2005 over here.
Such a great insult. I've not heard it for a long time.
Yeah, it's very middle class, isn't it? You can tell. I am really everything that's wrong with football nowadays.
Twerk.
You're finding this much funnier than I thought.
Because you know what? When I'm allowed to go football again, rather than swear, I'm gonna in the middle of the end. Get up.
We didn't preview Tottenham Man City, where probably Jose could finish off Pep's title hopes.
We did. That's a good point. We probably should have done. Yeah. I was real focusing on our own teams, but yeah, I think that Spurs. I mean, we talked about Spurs on John's, but I mentioned they were probably second favourites behind Liverpool at the minute for the title, but they've got a really tough run in coming up now, where they've got Man City, they've got Chelsea away, I think, then they've got Arsenal. So they've got this run of games is really going to be the real test for them. I think if they can beat City, they'll send out a real statement of intent, and like you said, potentially knock them out of the title race completely. But I feel like they tend to struggle against City a lot of the time. So I'm not sure I necessarily see them winning this one.
Tell you what, on Sky Bet, Spurs are 3-1. I mean, I'll never back Spurs. In fact, I can never lose my money like that. But you know, if you're a betting man, 3-1, that's a great price. And Spurs are at home as well, so that's a great price.
Yep.
But come on, City, anyway.
Pep signed a new contract as well, which is surprising.
Yeah, he did today, 2-year extension. I suppose he's been promised more hundreds of millions to spend.
So I think maybe next summer we might see Mr. Lionel Messi at the Etihad. That's my personal opinion.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why he stayed, because I think he knows Messi's coming. Yeah. Hope so, anyway. I'd love to see Messi in the Premier League just for a little while. Just be great. Just from a diving twerp on a Saturday afternoon, I think.
I'd love to see Messi at home to Burnley. Just, I mean, that
Jimmy
would be.
Dunn. Jimmy Dunn, love that. Proper old school name. Jimmy Dunn tackling Lionel Messi, great.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. Like, do you remember? I mean, you probably remember Johnny, like Thierry Henry when he played at Portsmouth, and the whole Portsmouth fans just round of applauded him because he
Yeah,
was like,
I remember. He came out. I remember that he came back out in a Portsmouth shirt, didn't he? Yeah.
yeah, he was.
Yeah.
No, I remember Thierry Henry, Andrew. I watched him play live at Sellers Park back in 2004. Like, I don't remember him specifically, but I remember him easily being the best player on the pitch. Like, he's still the best player I've seen play at Selhurst live.
Or even better than Andy Johnson.
Yeah, even better than Andy Johnson's fighting. I mean, he was the definition of a one-season wonder, Andy Johnson. 21 goals in his first season, only behind Thierry Henry, higher than everyone else. And when he went to Everton, he was never quite the same. I mean, if for England as well, he was Sven-Göran Eriksson playing him on the wing instead of up front. I mean, whatever. You can see England hasn't changed much since then.
I've met him, Andy Johnson, when I was a window cleaner. I washed his car once.
Oh, cool.
I washed his windows. Yeah, nice bloke, nice fella. Lovely car.
I went to Fulham Newcastle. Must be about 8 years ago, and we were 2-1 up, and I was like, "Oh, Fulham are terrible. Like, we are going to absolutely." Bobby Zamora and Andy Johnson are doing absolutely nothing. And I think Andy Johnson scored a hat trick. So
Yeah.
we lost 5-2. So yeah.
Yeah, he had his moments. He was my childhood hero, Palace goal scorer, but he was. Yeah, I never found his consistency after that, which is a bit of a shame. But we'll move on to my let's all laugh at, and it's unfortunately one for the worst for not as good reasons. I've gone for the EFL. I mean, there's several weeks we could have picked because they've been an absolute shambles for the past few years, but this week they released a statement talking about illegal streaming and piracy, that illegal streaming is harming our clubs during what is a crucial time, and we're united in tackling the issue. No, I think what's actually harming clubs is your total mismanagement of the whole situation and your complete lack of empathy for any clubs around you. I mean, whether it's your fit and proper persons test that allowed idiots like Roland de Châtelet and Carl Oyston to completely ruin the clubs that they're at, whether you're still not allowing fans back into the leagues, even though you've had 2 clubs in the space of a year go directly out of business, 2 proper, big clubs as well, like established football league clubs with proper fan bases, not like just little non-league clubs that have been struggling for years. Like, this has all happened under your watch, and it's all the same thing going on as what all we hear about football in a pandemic time, right? When you've got people who can't go to their jobs, who are on government money, including people on this podcast who've been directly affected by it, and you're going to sit there and blame them for the problems that we're having. The problems that we're having is we've allowed you to lie to us for years now with all these deals, all your money, all the big football deals about the Premier League and, paying £15 a game and all this money to get certain games and all the things about, you can't watch 3 o'clock games because it's supposed to be protecting the football clubs. It's protecting your profit. It's what it's doing. So it means clubs keep subscribing into what you've got and they're not forced to, they pay into the whole system. And the whole thing is just centered to go against the big clubs. You talk about the takeover with Newcastle, they don't want you to have it because they're protecting the clubs because they see you as a threat. They know with the infrastructure you've got and the money they've got, you can storm the top 6 and you can completely rip it apart. And you go to clubs places all over the world, you play 20 quid a week or 20 quid a year sometimes, you get every single game you want. You don't get that here, but that's apparently our fault because you're totally ripping us off and you're trying to shift the blame. I'm going on a rant here. I'm going on a total rant, but I don't know what else to say. I mean, honestly,
I'm very surprised more League One and more League Two clubs have not gone under.
Exactly. No, there's so many clubs. There's talk of clubs on the brink for ages, and they're still there. Again, it was Macclesfield before, it was Bury before that. How many others are actually going to suffer before you actually do something about it? You're not, because you don't care. It's never been about that for you. And as soon as you get this European Super League, that's it. They're taking all the money with them.
Are you right, Jules?
No, I'm not all right. Can you tell? It's just
I've got to be honest. League Two and League One, I'm so amazed that more clubs aren't going into administration and stuff because they are so dependent on gate receipts and money around gate receipts. I found it incredible, and it doesn't until obviously the vaccine comes in and everything. It doesn't look like it's gonna, it's anytime soon. I don't even know how they're affording to pay wages. I can understand the championship clubs because some of them have got good owners who can, and clubs like Salford obviously have got the Neville brothers and stuff like that. But like clubs like Rochdale, Aldershot, Accrington, how are they affording to stay afloat? Like income is close to little. It's just crazy. I'm amazed how many clubs have actually stayed afloat.
Yeah. And the thing is with the EFL, as George is right, blaming fans for illegal streaming. It's like, well, I can go to Ireland. I can go to Scotland or Wales, and I could probably watch a 3 o'clock game in a pub in Wales. But I can't do it in England. It is very, very strange, and we all illegal stream. I know we shouldn't admit it, but I don't have Sky or BT.
You know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I don't. I can quite easily. It's one of them. And I'm glad they got rid of the £15 pay-per-view thing, because I wouldn't pay it anyway if I had Sky. But you can't blame fans for streaming games, because they want to watch their club.
You haven't left them a choice. Instead of actually trying to force them into your way, maybe you should actually accept that your way is wrong. And if you want to actually sometimes you have to cut your losses short term to make bigger profits long term. But they don't even understand that basic principle, and they're supposed to be businessmen.
Yeah, no, it is wrong. Yeah, and blaming fans. It's like, the thing is that they've done it for a long time. They blame fans. It's always the fans' fault, and that's the
thing. It all exists to give the bigger clubs more power. It runs right to the very top, and it links said before about the takeover. Derby are going to be allowed to give their takeover because they're not seen as a threat. They might be in a few years' time with all that money, but Newcastle right now with a 52,000 seat stadium that's always sells out when we actually have crowds there, anyways. It's going to be much easier for them to become a top 6 club and win leagues than it is going to be for Derby, and they know that, and they threatened that. It's the same reason why Man City with their ban, there's never been anything about Manchester United or Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool have been more better about it, but United I'm sure they haven't. It was a lot of fuss about City actually breaking that top 4, and even now they're there. There's problems accepting it. It stinks of corruption. I'm absolutely sick of it. I'm sick of looking at the Premier League and the EFL and saying it's so obvious what's going on, and I'm sick of talking about it and sick of hearing about it.
It's okay, George. Don't worry. Newcastle, we don't need billionaires. Dwight Gale's coming back from injury. Everything's
Oh, man. I just wish I could play Liverpool every week with him as front. But, yeah, well, anyways, which one do you guys want to go for?
Well, I mean, you made a very
Cameron
good...
Jerome.
I can't go against you, because you might start shouting at me. So I'll go with you.
Sorry,
Cameron Jerome.
Cameron Jerome. All right, fair enough. Yeah.
No, you didn't swear. I thought you was going on a proper rant. I thought you were going to start effing and jeffing. You didn't, so fair play to you.
Well, that was what I was trying hard not to do. I mean, I'm due a rant, I suppose. On here, yeah. I mean, I feel like there's your clickbait moment. There's the clip that's going to be clipped and then shared all around social media. I don't know. Probably no one gives a shit what I have to say. But
don't worry, mate. When Arsenal lose 4-0,
there you go. There's where the swear comes out.
Yeah, don't worry. When Arsenal lose 4-0,
at least the main thing is Tony Pulis is back in work. That's simple.
Oh, great.
Oh yeah, good point as well. Yeah.
Don't worry, Jules, mate. When Arsenal lose 4-0 this weekend, I'll have a rant next week. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Awesome. We can take it in turns.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right then. Well, that's about all the time we've got time for. Thanks for listening to this episode. Be sure to drop us a like and a follow, whatever platform you're on. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify at Let's All Laugh At Football Podcast, as well as Twitter at LALA_podcast. Be sure to check out Johnny's work at Life's a Pitch. Be sure to check out all our social media, links in the description as always. Thanks to Johnny and Andrew for joining me. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.